Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? You know, seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey Series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey Series. And let's get started, one story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link. Good morning. You know what? I just love it. It's a wonderful thing when you can crack yourself up. Seriously. And remember the punchline. Because putting sentences together at 62 starts to be a bit dicey. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I was laughing. Oh, Dr. Lauren with you. I was laughing at myself because I was like, okay, which crazy thing that happened over the holidays do I want to put in the monologue? And so I was going to, and then I saw myself last night sneaking the dressing that people couldn't figure. Where's the dressing? I said, they must have ate it all. I ruined the dressing, y'all. I was like, do not drink rum chata and coffee in the middle of all night when you think you're drinking coffee to stay awake to cook. Leave the rum chata out, because I put probably, I don't know how much sage, but I took one taste of it. And you know, black people don't play with their dressing. Seriously. Greens, dress, there are certain things. So I snuck it to the dumpster last night. I had it hidden in the refrigerator in the garage, and I went and snuck it to the dumpster. So that was probably my most spirited thing that I will reminisce about. What's yours? How was your holiday, you guys? A bit interesting for a lot of people this year, so soon after the election and whatnot. A lot of houses were split decisions and whatnot. But overall, from what I'm hearing on the street, a great, great, great holiday, which is the way it should be. It's all about that gratitude, right? Listen, that's the bell of purpose. I'll ring it throughout the broadcast on purpose, because it is a reminder. It's an opportunity, if you will, that just like that bell has a ring to it, so does the truth. So sometimes we need to be reminded how important that truth is. Can I get an amen? I'll throw one up on the screen. I ain't scared. There it is. Amen. So listen, really quickly, you know, we have a lot of sponsors this time of year, but today we're featuring, and I need to do my get on it and pop it up in the screen, up in the corner. Get your handheld device and scan that code. It is going to take you to Junonia Renee, a New York-based mother-daughter team, and they make all these great things. I use their serum. I've been using it for about 7 months now at night. Trust me, there's probably I don't know how many wrinkles would have been here if I hadn't been using it, but I'm glad they're not. Anyway, I use that every day at night, and then I use the whipped coconut butter is the one I'm on right now. And so if you're wondering if Dr. Lauren had some work done, no, I just use Junonia Renee and some other stuff, but that's for another show. So anyway, last thing, the holidays are officially here. We got a great guest for you today. Charles Maddox, you know, he does these great shows and has been doing them over the years. You know, my husband Brian and I were on one, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago in Mexico, reversed, all about the cancer center there, where people were coming for holistic and organic solutions, as opposed to big pharma and some of those things that really don't serve a lot of people. So today we have a guest that's on a new special, a new docuseries that Charles and his team have out, all about longevity. That's a hot topic nowadays. And I, for one, am all about that. You've heard me say it many times, and I'm not playing. Dr. Lauren, my goal in life is to be the black male Betty White. I'm not playing. That's exactly how I want it. I want to ride it till the wheels fall off, right? So we have a guest. And speaking of guests, I'm serious, y'all. Pray for me. I'm going to need it. I love family. However, this Thursday, pray for me, please, please, please. My husband's favorite aunt is coming for 4 days, and I need to. I'll probably I'm gonna start getting ready for her now. Actually, right now, I'm getting ready. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Nothing came out of my mouth, but pray for me. That's all I'm gonna say. Love me some family. So listen, who is here? Bradley Schurman. I know I'm saying it wrong. I want to say Schurman, but it sounds like it has a little more je ne sais quoi to it. Let's let him say it, because he's in D.C. You know, they got their own language up there. Oh, yes, they do. Oh, yes, they do. Right. So anyway, he's a member of the team that was brought in to do this special with Charles. And Bradley, he's the founder and he's the CEO of Demogera. I know I'm saying it wrong. I was like, is it Demogera? I should have had him tell me. Listen, y'all, public school, foster care. I'm doing my best. I'm just saying, this is a firm that specializes in helping organizations stand the challenges and harness the opportunities of demographic change. Now, that I do understand. It has a focus on population aging. See, Schurman was instrumental in securing the topics of aging and longevity at both the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that's the OECD for you all that are not in the, you know, that place with its own language, I told you, and World Economic Forum, the WEF. Okay, he was also responsible visioning
and executing the Aging Readiness and Competitiveness Report between AARP, I get that magazine, I have that card, and Foreign Policy Group. So he's been featured on NBC's Today Show, quoted in the New York Times, Huffington Post, and of course USA Today, as well as in local and national media outlets around the world. He's written a book that we're going to get into today as well, and I'm going to let him tell you about it because I want to get him in here. So, when someone has never been here, we're going to roll out the virtual red carpet. How do we do that? Easy. Put some hearts on the screen because I hear him coming down the hall right now. Bradley Schurman on the way. Hello, Bradley.
Good morning to you, Dr. Lauren.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's a beautiful Monday morning here in the district.
It is. So, what time did your hair and makeup people show up?
Oh, this takes about 30 minutes.
See that?
From start to finish, my friend. Start to finish, my friend.
Only 30 minutes. Shoot, I have to get up at 4 o'clock just to get my eyes open. So anyway, good to see you. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was fulfilling. My parents came down from my hometown of Pittsburgh, and we spent a tourist weekend in DC, which you rarely get to do when you live here. So we did the sites, a few museums, the new White House Visitors Center tour, and really just had a great time.
Did you see the tree?
The tree's not up yet.
I wondered because I hadn't heard anything. That's like a big, when's that coming?
I think this weekend. It's late compared to other trees going up. And we get two here. We get the White House Christmas tree, which is, of course, at the Ellipse, where Kamala Harris delivered her final speech of the campaign. And the other one we get is at the Congress. There's a congressional Christmas tree that sits on the the west lawn, rather, of the Capitol building.
So are you like right in the heart of DC?
Yeah, if I walk out my front door, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes on foot to get to the front door of the White House.
Wow. Own a lot of khakis, do you?
I try to eschew the khaki wearing as much as possible. I am as much your normal and abnormal Washingtonian as possible. So
how many LL Bean catalogs you got in your house?
I have one LL Bean jacket, my friend. One.
Really? Was it a gift?
No, it's just a puffer that I wear.
Okay, a puffer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and surprisingly, it's gotten me into weird places, and I love that.
I bet. So how long have you been working out of that area? How long has that been going on?
Well, I moved to Washington for college, and I never left. So I'm on my 28th year here. I've been in DC longer than anywhere else. And I love it here. It's a great dynamic city.
Well, speaking of college, let's figure out what was this path of yours? It's very interesting. You're the first person I've ever met that does what you do. So when you said you came there for college, what was your major? What did you think you were going to be doing?
So I studied politics and communications at American University. And I think like most people who come to Washington, certainly for school, I was involved in everything in high school, from student body to captaining the swim team to choral to theater. I mean, the list kind of went on and on. It was a bit obscene. But I got here and I really thought, yeah, I'm going to work in Congress. I'm eventually going to run for office. And once I arrived, I realized that was not the path I wanted. Politics is a very, very dirty game.
Please, can you refrain from your dirty words, all that nasty language you're using? I was gonna say don't use the P word, but I was like, I better wait till he says it again.
Yeah.
What I missed?
It's almost a 4-letter word these days.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. Let me start by asking you this. People always, the two things you don't talk about, politics and religion, and I think it's two things we ought to talk more about.
I agree.
I really do.
Politics is so interwoven into our lives these days that we really do a disservice by not having those frank and open conversations about, what's really motivating us as people. But more importantly, what's really motivating other people that don't necessarily agree with us. We've lost that ability to to really find common ground amongst disparate parties. And I think that's a real travesty of democracy. You know, it's interesting, Lauren, you know, part of what I do is production and storytelling, certainly around this issue of demographic change and other issues as well. But it's really rooted in a strong sense of history and what came before us. And just this past week, I was digging into the archives, looking back at how we've debated issues in the past. And I stumbled upon this NBC broadcast that went from about 1935 until 1956. It's kind of the precursor to Meet the Press. It was called America's Town Hall on the Air. And as I was listening to these different broadcasts, which were about an hour-long length each, the subjects that they covered are exactly the subjects that we cover today. In fact, one of the ones is about the rise of fascism. Is it a bad thing? Which is kind of crazy, thinking that, you know, just, about 90 years ago, they were having these conversations. But one really struck me because it's something so central to Americans today is their healthcare. And the exact same debate was held in 1940 on NBC radio, talking about the need, whether there is a need for a national insurance. So these things that we think are rather contemporary, rather new issues that we're discussing, they're not. We've been slogging through these for decades now, nearly a century, if not more. And we have not come to a perfect solution, although I'd hope that we continue to try to find one.
Up for sure. I want to go back since you got me feeling all nostalgic and all that. Let's tie that in to the longevity narrative, if we could. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid. Walnut Grove, what a beautiful place to grow up. That Nellie Olson, what a card she was. Okay, I'm not that old. I just had to get it out of the way so you guys don't like it. Right. But I am 62. So I'm going to say this. I remember when there were cigarette commercials on television.
Sure.
And I remember when the Surgeon General, they used to show his face. That guy that had the white hair and stuff. I was like, is he related to Colonel Sanders? That guy? Right. And he had a lot of power. And they started putting the warnings on the labels of cigarettes. But I remember, machines where kids, you could just put money in and get cigarettes out. And so what I'm saying is, back then, where was the longevity piece? You know what I'm saying? How it has changed. Oh, hi, little one back there. I see you. You're being upstaged, by the way. And for once, I had nothing to do with it.
She's the star. She's the star in this house.
Oh, what's her name?
Edith.
There's a story behind that, but I'm not even going to ask. Edith?
Edith. Yeah, like little Edie.
Yes. Oh, what a cutie. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
How much of the narrative of longevity is controlled by government?
A lot. Like a lot more than you realize.
Talk about that.
For most of human history, life expectancy, and this is average life expectancy, hovered around 35 years. Yes, 35 years.
Are you talking about 35 dog years?
No, 35 human years, 35 revolutions around the sun. Yes, average life expectancy, that's taking everyone together, hovered around 30 to 35 years old. Now, that doesn't mean we didn't have old people back then. We did. There are plenty of old people that are noted throughout history, plenty of old men specifically that are written about.
Okay, now
people like Benjamin Franklin, for example,
lived well into his 80s.
What's that?
You're starting. I'm sensitive. We had plenty of old men. I'm sorry. Right. Well, I might come on real quick. I just gotta say this. Do you remember the first time I remember the first time a kid called me Mister.
Oh,
I was 19. And I was like, who are you talking to? I felt old.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember the first time that happened. Sir, Mister.
Right. So 35.
35. Yes. Now, here's why. Let me just boil it down to the basics. Please. There are a lot of things that go into longevity. One of the biggest things is whether or not children survive into adulthood. So my grandfather, who was born in 1914, one of 8 kids, at birth, my grandfather had about a 50% chance of surviving into adulthood.
Because?
Well, because kids went to work in the mines. He was 14 when he entered the mines. If he had been born a decade earlier, he could have been in the mines at as young as 6.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
this is
didn't have
geographical as well.
to some degree, yeah. Of course, but children were labor not that long ago. People seem to forget this part of our history. But if you take a look back at photographs of the turn of the century, the late 1800s in particular, you will see tiny young children working in factories, working in farms, working in mines. This was a common practice. So one of the ways that government really started to get involved in longevity, I think really by happenstance, is they started protecting children. So children were guaranteed a right to education, but it didn't just end there. Children were also guaranteed a right to clean water. Yeah, basic clean water. That is a big thing that helped our longevity because it solved things like waterborne diseases. Things like having indoor plumbing, things like the garbage man coming once a week to pick up the refuse and take it to another place. All of these things contributed to our longevity because they actually solved for infant and youth mortality for the most part. Today, a child born has about a 90% chance or more of surviving into adulthood. In fact, the single biggest killer now for children in this country, at least, is gun violence. We've solved for most of all the other diseases and all the other issues around infant mortality, but we have this other one that's hanging out there now, which are guns.
Well, see, sometimes the truth hurts. I didn't want to ring the bell, but I had to because it's the truth. Man, okay, all right. So
yeah, it stings. It's a tough pill to swallow. And if government really wanted to change this, they could. They could help increase longevity, average longevity, that is, simply by curtailing gun violence in this country. And they've chosen not to do that. Now, there are plenty of other areas where government has played a big role in longevity. Obviously, investment in science and medicine has really helped. Transplantation, for example, of organs, that extends life in individuals, therefore extending overall life expectancy. Things like vaccines, which people love to debate today, but vaccines on average have helped extend life expectancy.
Oh, yeah.
Basic drugs that are used to manage chronic conditions like heart disease or diabetes. These things help extend human longevity. When you take a look at all of them together, though, it's created a really unique situation where we have more people over the age of 65 today than ever before in human history.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of this decade, at least 1 out of 5 people in this country will be over the age of 65.
Mm-hmm.
And by 2034, at the latest, at the absolute latest, there'll be more people over 65 than under 18 for the first time in our history.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a radical change. It's an absolutely radical change. And that requires everything to change around it. Society needs to reorient for an older society. How it gets there is still TBD. We're caught in many of our old ways. There are certainly some evolutions that are happening. But change is bumpy, but change is constant. And it's how we adapt to it that shows how we are as people.
Well, speaking of adapting, this is a great place to go over here. Also, there's so many variables. It's like when I picture the entire longevity opportunity, or not, because again, this for those of you who tuned in late, hello, the male Black Betty White in the making, and I mean that. I'm manifesting it. Because it's not just being alive at 99, it's the quality of life that I choose to want to live at 99. I don't want to be 99 and stuck in some state, nursing home, drooling in the corner. I want to still be actively involved in living this thing called life. So I want to ask you about this. Sure. I've heard, and from some very good sources, that for doctors, for instance, if they don't have AI as a part of their practice in the next 5 years, they're pretty much going to be obsolete, because AI is now going to also pour in a lot to helping to diagnose things and say, listen, if you do this now, you can avoid that thing coming up 40 years from now. It's really going to help. What you have your ear to the ground, Bradley? What do you hear as far as AI assisting in the longevity piece?
Yeah, sure. Of course it will. It's one component, but I wouldn't get too excited about AI quite yet, because it's not necessarily intelligent. It's a nice branding. It's really machine learning. And we've taught the machines to look for certain things, to identify certain things in healthcare. We can certainly ask it for averages to help diagnose. Will it be a disruptor for medicine? Absolutely. But will it remove the doctor from the equation? Definitely not.
No.
Not by any stretch of the imagination. But machines actually are going to be a lot better at identifying risk in the future. Yeah, like identifying cancers.
Right.
Screening for things like breast cancer. Right now we essentially have to work off the human eye, which is limited in what it can do. Machines are going to help get us to that next level.
Sure.
Diagnosing early.
I remember when I was a young person in the Air Force, when I first got in, one of the first things they did was a blood panel checking for possible rheumatoid arthritis and I hadn't found my birth family yet. So I was all excited about learning some things that I didn't have any way to get the information for, except for what people told me. And they were right. They said, you are going to, and they were right. I mean, I've had a knee replacement already. I'll probably have another one, and now, but what is good about that, the heads up, is now when little things happen, I get right in front of them. I start feeling something in my knuckles. I'm like, what do I need to do? I have the PT guy come every week and do my knee. So let's talk about this, because right now it's almost like during the Richard Simmons era, when, all of a sudden fitness took on a whole new look. Well, now we have holistic, organic, all these different things. And a lot of people, it's kind of morphing. Oh, perfect day to have a tie-dye on into woo-wooism. So where a lot of people are choosing, and a lot of traditional doctors and whatnot, physicians are dropping out of prescribing, what they used to do, and going with the holistic thing.
Yeah.
So is that helping stretch us?
Yes and no.
Or is that just another?
I think for your listeners, probably the biggest thing to understand about longevity is that about 20% of it is made up by genetics. So like there's 20% of our longevity that's already decided in our code, what we've inherited from our parents, the people that made us. But for that 80%, that's fungible. That can be moved around. And it's largely dictated by three things. The first is what you put in your body, the types of food you eat. Is it healthy? Is it not organic necessarily, but is it not ultra processed? That's a big part of it.
Right.
The second part of it is how much you move. Like we as human beings are really designed to move. We're not designed to be sedentary. And you think about kind of our long history, pre-civilization history, like we had to work to eat. We had to move, we had to hunt, we had to gather. That moving is built into our being, how we evolved. But the third piece, and this is the piece that always seems to get missed, is that we are inherently social creatures and we need community. We require community for survival. And I met this gentleman, his name's Dr. Jeremy Noble, a few weeks ago, and he's got a project called Project Unlonely, and a book by the same title. And Dr. Noble talks about loneliness a lot like thirst or hunger. So when we feel lonely, we're really craving human interaction. And we're not necessarily satiating that urge like we should. But human interaction, having community and being connected to people is such a major part of the puzzle. So if we don't have that, we're likely to die earlier. And, for your listeners in particular, the American Heart Association's talked about this for years. But if you are lonely, if you are truly lonely and isolated, that's like smoking nearly a pack of cigarettes a day.
Oh, the equivalent.
That's the equivalent. That's the amount of damage it can do to your body. And it's really dramatic. and it tends to affect men more than women. And if you are people tend to think it's just about old people being isolated, but that's not the case anymore. Technology has really driven younger people to become more isolated, which is very concerning. And of course, the automation of things has isolated us even further. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't remember the last time I was physically in a bank. I dread going to the post office because of the lines. I can do most of that on the computer. And the last time I had a conversation with my postman, a year,
What?
maybe.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm dead serious.
God, I love my postman Lou. I wait to see him, and I was just, oh, how interesting. My banker's name is Lou too.
But Lauren, it's even in the grocery store. I mean, the grocery stores have automated to a point now too, and of course, you know, they're doing their cost benefit analysis now to see whether or not humans are better than machines. But a lot of times, I can tell you right down the street at Whole Foods here in my neighborhood, they've got more self-checkouts than they do human checkouts.
Okay, wait. So this has got to be something that has to do with where you live.
It does.
It has to, because that is
Dr.
the
Lauren,
experience I have.
There's no debating here. Like, where you live dictates your longevity to such a large degree. Like, to the nth degree dictates whether or not you will live a long, healthy life or whether you will live a short, very unhealthy life.
What are the top three places?
Well, like, no, I mean, you live in Chicago, right?
Well, a suburb of.
Well, okay. Let's talk about the city of Chicago. If you live in Streeterville, which is, you know, one of the whitest, richest neighborhoods in the country, the average life expectancy there is pushing, you know, upper 90s now.
Wow.
Now, what's in Streeterville? You've got good access to healthcare. You got good access to wealth. You got good access to education. You have everything. But if you get 9 miles south, on the south side of Chicago, your life expectancy is about 30 years less on average. That is a dramatic divide. In fact, in an urban area, it's the biggest divide in the country. But nationwide, it's even bigger. Similar demographics exist in North Carolina in the Research Triangle, where, you know, the upper level of longevity, lifespan at birth is pushing 100. But if you go out to one of the reservations out west, it's closer to 50, 54. So we're talking about a massive divide here, and one that really needs to be closed. Not just, as you say, on the longevity side, but also on the healthy longevity side. Because the last thing most of us want is to age in bad health.
Right.
I think we'd prefer the old way of going out, which is one day you're here and one day you're not.
I agree. Let me ask you this. It's just a mindset thing that I'm curious about, because I've done it since, and I'm not the only one. Watch. Ever since I was a kid, I used to, when we had a newspaper. Now there's something I haven't picked up in a long time. A newspaper, a literal one, newspaper. But I would always flip to the back to the obituary section to kind of get a feel for the average of the people on the page. Okay, most of them are in their 80s, or most of them this week are today's in their 70s, or whenever it is I'm looking at it. And then I would always see, when you see somebody 40 get your attention, I wonder what happened. And it would be the only time I would really think about longevity, mortality, all of the above. It's a thing that scares a lot of people. They don't, same reason we self-diagnose. So what I'm trying to get to is this. When you're afraid of the inevitable, death is a part of living. Why I think it hurts more than helps when you're afraid of it, because now you're in some form of denial, I would think. So can you talk about mindset on how we can help our own chances of longevity by our own mindset?
Yeah, well, I mean, people who have a good attitude towards death tend to live better than people who don't. Study after study concludes that this is the case. Well, because we have a better sense of the life that we're living now. We do have this fear, almost this universal fear, certainly in the United States, but I think it's really a Western issue where we fear death and we fear the inevitable. There's different ideas of why this is the case, but we
Mm.
know that when people have a more positive attitudes towards their end, their finality of their life, they tend to be better prepared for it. They tend to have a better outlook. They tend to live for the day and be prepared for the future better than those who simply put it off. And this goes for everything. It's not just, living day to day. It's also the planning that goes into your end of life. And I
Yeah.
think any of us that have parents, mine are in their 70s now, they're doing all of this. They're very actively engaged in their end of life planning to such a degree, it's almost shocking. But I know it's hard. It is really hard work to think about your eventual demise.
Yes.
But guess what? The Reaper bats 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
The Reaper bats 1,000. So you're not going to outrun death.
Right.
You might extend your longevity a bit. You might live a few more healthy years, but you're going to die. I don't understand why people can't wrap their heads around that, but it is a challenge. And if you don't take it on, death, if you don't think about it and plan for it, you're not just doing yourself a disservice, you're doing your entire family a disservice.
Right.
Because people
Absolutely
that
right.
put off planning for the end, that don't do the proper estate planning, that don't think about their DNRs, do not resuscitate orders,
Yes.
think about the care plan they actually want at the end, their families, their estate first, and then their families end up paying so much more money at the end, and it creates so much more hardship.
Oh.
So think of that end of life planning not just as a service to yourself and your own health and your own well-being, but also to your family,
Right.
to your brothers, your sisters, your progeny, maybe even your parents. Think through that.
I agree. I'm going to say something here. You guys, I've been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 months, and I love it. I added some additional life insurance things. Well, I really got serious. When people think I'm just making a joke when I say the blackmail Betty White, but I do that because it keeps pushing me to stretch to do better. So I added some life insurance, which was helping to break down that barrier of being afraid of the inevitable. But then I was at a service of a friend of ours that passed when we were in Jackson Hole over my birthday, the 4th of July weekend. And when I came back, we went straight from the airport home, changed into our suits, and went to the service. And they had all these different easels with pictures of this person, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, like every decade of her life. And I would listen to the people that were looking at the collages. And that's when I came home. I literally changed my will. I said, I don't want anything written, no obituary, nobody getting up at the service, saying anything or printing anything about Dr. Lauren that is older than 14 days. Because you know what it does? It makes me get up every day and make sure that I at least attempt to leave something in that day that is, first of all, memorable, and then repeatable. Yeah. So if I want people, what's it going to be, crickets in my service if I don't get up and find something to be grateful for? I don't want people to say 30 years ago, Dr. Lauren did this, and in 1990, he did that. I want to say last Thursday, I was on a call with Dr. Lauren, and we were talking about boom, boom, boom. So I really believe this, and it makes me feel better. The less fear I have of it, the quality seems to go up, 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 up. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about, how does your book, tell us, what's the title of your book?
It's called The Super Age, Decoding Our Demographic Destiny.
Talk about, first of all, why this book? What made you think the world needed this book? Why is it so important, Brad?
I think first and foremost, it's because we are going through a demographic transition that we've never experienced before as a civilization. And the top line is that we are aging as a society at an incredibly fast pace. Like I said, we're going to have more 65-year-olds and over than under 18s in just a decade.
Wow.
It's going to reorient everything that we do, from labor to consumer markets. But more importantly, the global society is changing as well. And it's not just that we're aging, it's that birth rates are down to such a low level now that, the UN predicts by 2086, world population will stop growing. So it's an interplay not only in how to manage an aging society, but also the first layers of a conversation of what do we do when we start to depopulate. And that's really never happened before. The only other times in history where we've seen a dip in global population were during the Black Plague and during World War II. And immediately after those events, the global population bounced back. But today it's really hard to create a family. And we've seen that the biggest driver in this isn't people's desire not to have children. People do want to have kids, but there are really significant economic headwinds against young people that are delaying the creation of family and home. The average age for a first-time mother now is 27 years old, the highest it's ever been. Yes. And in this country, the average age of a first-time home buyer is now 38. 38.
Wow.
It's insane. So when you delay these things, when you delay having children, when you delay creating a family, when you delay buying a house, that pushes everything off. And this is part of the reason why our birth rates have gotten so low. The other interesting reason our birth rates have dropped so significantly in this country and quite frankly worldwide is we've been really successful at lowering teen pregnancies, really good at it. And that has changed the way we function. So in the 20th century, we grew exponentially. So we went from about 2 billion people in 1920 to 8 billion people today. That is a massive jump.
Sure.
I'm not suggesting that we try to stay on that trajectory because it's simply not sustainable. But what I'd like to get to in the perfect world is a more balanced population that follows history's norms, where we have relatively slow growth or we stay relatively even in terms of our population size. Too much disruption on either end throws off the whole. And we are definitely thrown off right now. And we will be for at least the next 20 to 25 years, because guess what? It takes about 20 to 25 years to grow a fully functioning adult. So if we have a shift in our births in the coming years, we know that once that shift happens, we have to wait a full generation, if not more, for things to start to even out and get back to a more normal pace.
So do you think that, because I work with some 21-year-olds, right? In my coaching business, and their mindset is just incredible to me. Their work ethics are just incredible to me. And the fact that they can make the type of income in a month that it took people of my generation, baby boomers, decades. I mean it. I have 21-year-olds that are making $93,000 in a month. In a month. And I mean, there's like 40 some kids up in this office, and the one that made the least last month made like 17 grand.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? Right. So I'm like, but then it's starting to dawn on me. These kids they're indigenous to this world we live in. I'm the alien.
To some degree.
I came from another world.
The reality is that the kids, as you refer to them, those Gen Zs, grew up in a very different environment than we did. They entered work in a very different environment than we did. And because of that, they're experiencing life in a very different way than we did. Interestingly enough, I've actually drawn a lot of comparisons between Gen Z and the greatest generation. And the threads that you pull for that are really around the social, economic, technological shifts that both generations experienced during their lifetimes. And with Gen Z, I agree with you. I find Gen Zs to be highly innovative, really compelling group of people, but not all of them are making $1,700,000 a month.
Right.
A lot of them are really struggling to get by. In fact, the vast majority, I would say, are struggling to get by. The upside for them is that we do have this demographic pinch that's happened nationwide, and that's forced the labor market to tighten up. We're at the tightest labor market in 50 plus years in this country happening right now. And because of that, employers have to compete more for talent. So if you're going the traditional route, if you're going to an employer for a full-time position, they're actually competing for you now. When I entered the workplace, employers weren't competing for anybody.
No.
Salaries were lower, and there wasn't as much competition by employers for employees, but there was a lot of competition for employees for those jobs. So a lot has shifted in just a very short period of time. And that is reorienting really everything, Lauren.
Sure.
But yeah, technology,
Well,
and I think especially those young people that understand technology, but it's not just them, mind you. Anybody who understands technology, how to leverage it, especially these new tools that exist out there, can really maximize their return on their work and the value of their work and the amount of energy they put into it. So yeah, I agree. There are some really exceptional people that have.
There are, but again, just like in everything, there's two sides to every story, every coin. And you're right. Not all of them are doing this, but the thing that I am learning that we don't talk about enough, in my opinion, is that like people like me, you know, we made our way through competition, like what you were describing with the employer situation. But today, a lot of these kids are making their way through creativity. So creativity takes a lot of pressure off.
It changes the game. I wouldn't say it takes pressure off, because you know, if you're existing in a creative environment where you're on, you know, a TikTok channel, for example, or YouTube, you're constantly having to feed the beast in order to keep your relevancy. It's not different. It's just a different way of, you know, showing your relevancy and maintaining your relevancy and building your audience.
They worry about a different set of things.
Correct.
Than I do. You see what I mean? And the way they process it. But I'll say this. I'm like, I asked these guys, I was like, why do you want to work with me? And I'm 61. I mean, what do I know? My stuff is all fading out. And they were like, no, the things that matter that I can't get. The humanity piece is what one of them said to me.
Yeah.
The humanity piece. We can't get that through our video and our technology, our AI. We need that to be passed on to us. So I want to ask you about this, about our elderly. How do you feel we take care of our elderly here in this country compared to other nations?
Well, we don't take care of our elderly. We don't. I think that's the first thing, is that we have really struggled with, you know, a care system that works. We also tend to, you know, quote unquote, put people out to pasture way too soon in this country. And this is universal. This is not just in America. This is worldwide.
What's the average put them out to pasture age?
I mean, most people retire at 62. You know, and why they do that, there's a litany of psychological reasons for it.
Do you think that's good or bad? I need your opinion. I'll tell you why.
Bad.
Someone told me that have you heard this statistic that people that retire die earlier than people who
They do. They die earlier. This is consistent. Again, when you leave a workplace, and I'm going to stress this for the men that are on this today, when you leave a workplace, and so much as men, we put this incredible value on our work and our relationships at work. When we leave work and we don't have a plan for what to do after work, we can become isolated very quickly. And that starts to build up, that isolation, and it causes people to get sick. You see almost immediate declines in physical health, but also in mental health and even cognitive health. So yeah, staying in work, there are so many upsides to it. The challenge is that we haven't rethought work in later life. Work is essentially a one-size-fits-all value proposition. It's a 40-hour plus work week. Obviously, there's some variability in the type of work that people are doing, but for the most part, we're engaged in at least 40 hours of work a week. Now, I expect to be working well into my 70s, if not my 80s.
Right.
I'm not remotely interested in a 40-hour work week at 65, 70, 75.
Now.
I mean, I barely like it now. You're absolutely right. I barely like it now.
Oh, you're not at 62 yet. I'm sitting on it. And I'm glad I don't have to go. I thought about this, Bradley, over the holiday. When I saw people at work, I looked at my husband. I said, remember when we had those kinds of jobs where you had to go to work on a holiday and it sucked. You know what I'm saying? And then you see somebody our age at work on a holiday compared to the person who doesn't have to. Makes a difference in their longevity?
It does.
Wow. Hey, let's talk about the program, the docuseries. How did you get into it? How did they find you, or how did you find them? And why did you say yes to the Charles Maddox thing? Here, I'm going to pop it on the screen. Reverse the race for longevity. There's the star-studded cast, and you are one amongst there, over to the far right. Tell us about this.
Yeah, you know, Charles reached out. He got a copy of my book, and I think that it just connected with him, because the Super Age really offers a blueprint for our future. Talks about the success that we've made for more than 100 years in extending longevity, but it also offers a cautionary tale. Remember, Dr. Lauren, you know, a lot of our longevity is based on the investments that we've made. The government has made, that society has made. And if we stop making those investments, for whatever reason, longevity will immediately reverse and go backwards. We'll lose everything that we've gained. So, you know, if we become real skeptics when it comes to vaccines, for example, we will see a reversal in longevity because more kids will get sick. So we are kind of navigating, you know, steering a great big ship here. The Super Age is there to help people navigate this period that we're going through. And that's why I think it connects well with the overall series. You know, Charles brought together a phenomenal group of scientists that are really pushing the edges of longevity science. I come at this from the perspective of social science. Like, what are we doing in society, the economy, to adapt to this? And unfortunately, we are woefully behind. The other thing that I think is really interesting that I believe the series will highlight is this disconnect between science and social. And Charles, I think, was able to bring together pretty masterfully those two sides, illustrating that, yes, the science can push us into a new era where we live longer and live healthier than we ever have before. But if we don't adjust our social norms, if we don't adjust and keep some of the bedrock systems in our societies, well, it might be all for naught. So I'm excited about the series, and I can't wait till it comes out.
Yes, and we're going to get a little taste of it, everybody, right now. Here it is. This is the trailer from the upcoming series, Reverse Longevity. Here we go. Let's take a look.
There are so many things we do from the time that we wake up to when we go to bed that can really help optimize our lives. There's not things that are always out of reach. Foods that we choose to eat for ourselves, behaviors that we have, as simple as how many steps we take, how we have mindfulness around what we're consuming, how we manage our stress levels. There's everyday things that we can implement. And while they may feel like small, meaningless things at times, doing them day over day, week over week, month over month, decade over decade has tremendous impact on our health.
My name is Alan Graves, and I am one of the board members and founder at DoNotAge.org, the health research organization. We focus on making what's available right now accessible and affordable in terms of longevity for consumers.
There's been a revolution in our understanding of health and longevity, and this knowledge has personally transformed my life. And I've now made it my mission to help deliver this information to a broader audience. In doing that, I've reached out on social media, doing programs like this, and also I've written a book with the title Lies I Taught in Medical School, which is coming out in a few months.
What we do is really take a personalized approach to every patient and comprehensively looking at their lifestyle, nutrition, their exercise activity, and we combine that with the medical approach and the science that is the underpinning of a proper life that's focusing primarily on health span and lifespan.
What we've realized is that nitric oxide is really the key to longevity. It controls all aspects of aging and wellness. It controls the lengths of our telomeres, it controls mitochondrial function, and it controls the mobilization of our own stem cells and how we heal and repair. So your body cannot and will not heal without nitric oxide, and that's what we're finding through scientific research, that it's the loss of nitric oxide that leads to aging and really age-related chronic disease.
Welcome to the breathtaking landscapes of Costa Rica. We've come here to bring you a series like no other. I'm your host, and together we'll explore the secrets, the science, the inspiring stories of living a longer, healthier life. This is Reverse Longevity. Buckle up for a ride like never before.
Because in the end, it should not be for the richest to be much more healthier, but everybody should be able to use all the markers to test themselves. How do I age at this moment in time, and how can I intervene and make myself better?
So let me ask you, Brad Lee, did you learn anything from these other people that were there? It was such a learned group, just all over the place with all kinds of different pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, there's plenty, plenty to learn from.
Is everybody on the same page, or do you sometimes kind of, well, wait a minute?
I mean, I think I listen. I am one who believes that there are some fundamental truths to life, and if you eat well, keep moving, stay social, that's going to solve 90% of the longevity challenge. These folks are really pushing the edges of science right now. And of course, I am somebody who believes in data before all else. Data is king. And as the data comes out, I think we'll have a better sense of which of these treatments, and not just the ones that are on this program, but the ones that are being developed worldwide right now, whether or not they'll have clinical effectiveness. Wow. One of the things that I think Charles did a very good job of is curating a group of people that are based in science. But I warn people consistently, always double check the science. Longevity is a new hot topic.
Yeah. And
people need to be very smart about the advice they're taking, because this is a gold rush.
Yeah.
And when any gold rush happens, there's a lot of snake oil salesmen that come into the fold. So any little pill you get promised, don't assume that it's going to extend your longevity.
Right. The fountain of youth.
Yeah. Stick to the fundamentals. That's going to carry you a long way forward. And of course, pay attention to the good stuff that's out there. Listen to the stuff that's in this documentary, because it really will show you that there is a path forward in the future.
I agree. Thank you for that. Quickly, you guys, on the bottom of the screen, here are some pathways, if you will, to learn more or continue the dialogue with Bradley Schurman. There you see at the bottom is his LinkedIn. And also, here is the website. Tell them about HumanChange.
So we're a consultancy that focuses on helping businesses in particular navigate this great demographic transition that we're going through right now. We focus on labor and consumer markets primarily, and also in helping companies realize inclusive design, both in terms of their workforce and their workplaces.
All right. And then also the book. Get over to Amazon. Here's the link. Now we're going to take the liberty of dropping all of Bradley's connectors inside your comment section immediately at the conclusion of today's broadcast in just a couple minutes. Before we go, though, I wanted to ask you this. Seriously, from the kaleidoscope of experience that you get to hold and peer through each and every day, when you look through the kaleidoscope that shows you 50 years from now, what do you see as far as the average lifespan for someone in the United States?
I think we are at a fork in the road right now, Dr. Lauren.
Right now.
And right now we are standing at a fork in the road. And if we take the path that I hope we do, we'll see average lifespans push northward significantly by years, if not decades.
Really?
Yes, I do. I fundamentally believe that because I think the science, we are on the precipice of really interesting science around this. And we're going to achieve at some point what is typically referred to as longevity escape velocity, where we will maybe push past the upper limit of known human life expectancy, which is 120 years. But we also are at a crossroads when it comes to going in reverse. There are threats against our system right now. There are threats against clean air, clean water in this country and worldwide. Climate change will have an adverse impact on human longevity.
Sure.
And if we don't tackle these things, we're going to go in reverse. So, you know, we are at a crossroads right now. And I wish I had that perfect crystal ball to say exactly where we're going here. But if we don't tackle the challenges of tomorrow as well as the challenges of today, we're not going to get to that next level.
We're not going to get there. Well, something definitely to leave us with to think about. And that's what I love about these illuminated conversations we have. Thank you so much. Bradley, Schurman, you guys, the book, again, The Super Age, Decoding Our Demographic Destiny. It's out now. We're going to give you the link. Head over. It's a great thing to give as a Christmas gift. And also, don't miss this. Reverse, the race for longevity, coming out soon. We'll make sure to get you all the deets on that. Keep your eyes on all of my social media. We will have it all there for you when the time is right. Listen, I want to thank you again, Bradley. It's been quite an honor. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been great.
Yes, it's absolutely fascinating. Went by way too soon, way too fast. Thank you. Now, listen, all of you out there, get out today. Won't you? Find a higher piece of yourself. It only takes 1 E and 1 R. And already, just like that, you've taken everything that's already great to greater, bright to brighter, strong to stronger, and my personal favorite, kind to kinder. Now, don't let my screen door slam on your way out of here. I'll see you tomorrow morning, God willing, right over there on the front porch, where together we'll have another illuminated conversation. Now, I tell you every day, and I mean it, Dr. Lauren loves you, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. I'll see you. Have the best day ever. Bye, everybody. Bradley, great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.